Hey everybody. So we are here today to talk about this guy, the LaFerrari, which I had the great pleasure of driving for the second time a few months ago, and that was quite an experience. So we were invited when I was at Motor Trend to go finally test the car at Fiorano, myself along with two other journalists, one from Road and Track and one from Car and Driver. Good guys, both of them. But when the opportunity came for me to go test the car, I jumped at it. And if you've seen the Ignition episode, and if you haven't, you should go watch the Ignition episode, because that'll give you more of a broader view of the car and what its performance is and how capable it is and all the reasons I love it for all that stuff. And what I want to talk about today is actually just driving the car. So often the numbers dominate the discussion when it comes to these hypercars, that talking about driving it and showing you guys the video that I took while driving it, I want to explain a bit more about my experience with the car. And there might be a bit of navel-gazing in here, so forgive me for that in advance, but this was quite an experience. So we're at Fiorano, which is Ferrari's development course. And everybody's on hand. This is the Halo car, so everybody is there. Actually, in the middle of the day, while we were talking to the techs and stuff and engineers, a helicopter flies in and lands at the helipad at the track, and we're like, oh, that's weird, and we get back to our business. And then Sergio Marchionne walks up, and Sergio Marchionne is the CEO of Fiat, and he shows up to see what's going on. I think he must have had a meeting or something at Ferrari, I don't know, but that's the level of involvement we have here. It's pretty crazy. The car itself is just wild. It looks at home here at Fiorano, as you would rightfully hope, but we'll skip a lot of the design stuff because I've already gone over that quite a bit in length. Just in brief, I love the car, and I like the way it looks for the most part, especially that rear. That looks good. But just to give you a quick overview of the tests that we did, we wanted to weigh the car, but coming from the US, we couldn't bring scales, so we relied on Ferrari's techs to provide the scales, and they did so, and that seemed to go fine. There they are, jacking it up onto the 4 scales. We watched them zero the scales out and all that stuff, and the weight was 3,500 pounds, I want to say. Let me double check off the spec sheet I have here. 3,495. 3,495 pounds. So it's closer to P1. And this particular car weighed 3,495 pounds. Let's just say that. That's closer to the P1 than it is the 918, and that's because this car has less drivetrain than the 918. It doesn't have a powered front axle. Its carbon fiber tub is produced in a way that's going to give it somewhat of a weight advantage, but ultimately it is a larger car. It's wide, it's long, it's a big car, versus the 918 and the P1. It's lower than both of them, but it also has a V12, so that extra mass from the cylinders and just in terms of the size is going to give it some weight penalties. But you got 950 horsepower, so whatever. They're weighing it, and we are watching. You'll notice too that the tires here, are Pirelli P0 Corsas. They're not the Trofeo Rs. The Pirelli P0 Corsa is the only tire option for the LaFerrari, which is interesting. We asked them why they didn't do a Trofeo, or why this car didn't have Trofeos on them, and they said Trofeos aren't good in wet weather. They aren't good in inclement weather, so that they wanted a tire option that would drive on the road. It's interesting, whether that's the actual reason or whether Pirelli wouldn't make a Trofeo R in that rear tire size. The Trofeo R only goes up to a 305, I believe, section width, and this is a 335? 345, so it's a massive rear tire. I forgot how big that is. It's a 345 in the rear, and the Trofeo R is a 305. When you get the P1 on the Trofeo Rs, they actually go down 10 mil. They go from 315 to 305 because, again, the Trofeo R only comes in a 305. Whether that was the case with the LaFerrari, I don't know, but LaFerrari's explanation was that they wanted a tire that was good for all driving. And these are fine, as you'll see in the video, that they get overworked real quick, and they fall away, the grip and falls away real quick, but they're still a really easy to drive tire, which is incredible. And this car is forcing a lot of work on these tires, so considering how much abuse these tires have to take, they actually do a pretty good job. So there we are, looking at the weight. This is a pretty funny picture. So that's me. That's Tony Quiroga from Car and Driver. That's Larry Webster from Road and Track. Engineer, tech, Anthony Esposito, Motor Trend videographer, and a couple of photographers here. Good group of guys. So there's more photos. These photos were supplied by Ferrari. This is Ferrari's photographer running around taking pictures, and a lot of the stuff, as you'll see in the issue of Motor Trend that this came out with, and on Motor Trend's website. In the driver's seat here is Raffaele Di Simone, who's, and I might have pronounced that wrong, I apologize if I did, he's Ferrari's chief test driver. He's a hell of a driver. He can turn a wheel, as you would hope. Really nice guy too, really, eager to, talk about the cars that he drives and stuff that he's developed, and he's, one of the developing forces behind this car. So it's pretty amazing to be able to drive the car with, him standing right there. It's pretty cool. So we put this kind of gets into the testing of the car. We put our V-box in. Ferrari had their own V-box in the passenger footwell too, because they wanted to log their own data. And then myself, Tony, and Larry, we all put our own V-boxes in. It was kind of like this weird, bizarre assembly line process to get test numbers on the car. And there's the antenna for the satellite, and there's a couple other antennas on the roof there. The testing material might have added a bit more weight, but who knows. Over here on the left, that's a microphone receiver meant to capture the audio of the car as it drives. It's more of the business side of the car itself. Yeah, more testing, more loading up. There's my passenger, or my laptop in the passenger seat, checking data, very serious face on. So this is before I get to hot lap the car. So we did got our acceleration runs in, got our braking runs in, and then they tell us, okay, now it's your turn to set a lap time in the car. Okay, seriously, that's what you want us to do? This is one of one development car. Maybe there's another one or two, but this is one development car they have at the track. There's two other people who need to drive it. All the Ferrari seniority people are there. Raffaele Di Simone's right there, and you want me to set a lap time. Okay, so this is me looking very serious and intent, trying to physically tell Raffaele I'm not going to crash his car, or this car, because it's so very, it would be very bad. That was something that would never leave you. Also, you don't want to crash a car, period, but you still want to be able to explore it, still want to be able to drive it dynamically to experience what it's capable of. And I actually had a cold this entire time too. This whole week I was down with a cold. I landed in Italy with a cold. How quickly you forget those things. But still, this was an awesome experience, and I'm so glad I got to do it. So there's more of us talking. This is from the video shots that we did of the car doing burnouts. You can make it do a burnout. That's not how it does a launch control, but you can make it do a burnout. And so that's what we did a few times. And then there's more of us chatting. So you can see the GoPros and stuff. We had GoPro. These cars were rigged up with all kinds of stuff. So there's more photos. This is Fiorano's track layout. It runs this direction if you follow my mouse like that. The map on Wikipedia was backwards, which is pretty funny. So we ran. Sometimes you'll run this bypass. We didn't. We stayed out here and came out here. And this is actually a pretty cool track. It's pretty short. This car's best lap time was a 1:19.7, I want to say. That's what Ferrari said was the fastest lap time, 1:19.7. I ultimately was, and then when I was there, Raffaele did a 1:19.8 with me sitting passenger with him, so clearly the car's gone faster than 1:19.7. But I ended up doing a 2 seconds slower than Raffaele, which you'll see in the video, and that was like a big surprise to me. But it was one that was very, very cool because I have very limited time at this track here, and I've only driven two cars here, one of them being the LaFerrari. The previous one was the F12 Berlinetta, and I've probably driven 12 laps around this track in my life entirely. Fortunately, it's an easy track to learn, and there's a lot of really cool things in it. 6 is the slowest part of the track, and it goes into the fastest part of the track, which you'll see in the video. This front straight, and I'll show you the braking point here, which is pretty neat. And then this is the complex that kind of screwed me up from getting a really good time, and it still frustrates me today that I screwed up in that complex. That's kind of it for the track. I actually left the track thinking how much fun like a Corvette Z06 would be around this track. You know, LaFerrari is great and all, but like something with some cup tires would be amazing on this track because it would be able to hold on to some real speed. Fiorano is a very cool place, but with that, let's just go right into the video. So I should get headphones for this. Hold on. Okay, now I've got headphones on, and this should be a lot better because I can hear what you guys can hear, and you can hear me talk without hearing double the engine audio. So I did 2 sets of hot laps in this car. That's what we were allowed to do. First set was slow, getting used to the car. They came in, did a tire change, and I put new tires on the car, and then sent me out. I do a warm-up lap, 2 hot laps, and then a cool-down lap. I've already missed a cool part. Listen how quick these shifts happen. That's really nice feeling, that surge of mid-range torque that you can just ride with the gear changes. I'm running with stability control on, traction control off. When you see me do correction, it's when I'm trying to feel out where the stability control is going to come in at, because it permits a bit of slip, but not enough for you to need to put in a lot of opposite lock, but just a little bit. So my corrections here aren't that great because I'm trying to feel where the stability control is, what the stability control is going to do. You'll see when I start doing the shuffle, because I'm trying to dip into the correction to see how much it's going to, take out of my hands. We're heading into the slowest section of the track, and I want you to pay attention to how much steering input, or how little steering input I have to turn the car around basically 180 degrees. Maybe 3/4 of a turn to do a 180 degree turn. So the steering's super quick, and it's very light, so it takes a little bit to acclimate to, but once you get used to it, you actually prefer it. This is the fastest corner here, and it's the corner I chickened out on because, you chicken out on fast corners if you don't know a track. And then going to the last corner here, I'm setting up for a fast exit where I'm going deep and then apexing late, trying to get as much power as I can out, but no correction needed. Watching that red line very carefully. I'm going to pause it. So you'll see there's shift lights on the steering wheel here. It may sound crazy, I didn't realize they were there while I was driving the car. I kept ducking my eyes underneath it to look for the red line here, and then when I saw the video, I was like, oh, there's shift lights on the wheel. It never occurred to me to look at them. That was really stupid. So pause it just for play for a second. So see that gap, that right there we cross? That's my braking point for turn 1, and I was a little early here. When I was sitting shotgun with Raffaele, that's the point where he would hit the brakes, and a lot of my speed here I attribute to going shotgun with him and trying to attach his inputs to different reference points around the track, and this is the biggest and most obvious one that I found. Going hard into 1, and entering to 2, I screw up here. Did you hear it? I lifted too early. I lifted and upshifted. Right there. So what I'm trying to do is this car makes so much power, 950 horsepower, and the tires can only take so much, that what I'm trying to do is keep the engine in its mid-range, and you're basically thinking about working the tires. When the engine's in its mid-range, things don't happen as quickly. It's less snappy, it's more controllable, but you still have more than enough power to overwhelm the tires. So, I mean, whether you're in the middle of 4th or the top of 3rd, if the power's similar and both of it's enough to overwhelm the tires, but things are smoother in 4th, that's when you go to 4th. That's the logic of short shifting. And a lot of this car is just sort of managing the grip that you have in the tire. And you can, get into a situation where you start driving this car too fast, because it is so immensely fast and it's so confident, they end up going into a corner too fast and understeering. That's something that can easily happen in this car, because it's so easy to get up to speed with that you go faster than you realize. So this is me going too slow into 2 and then trying to just stay on that grip. This, by the way, is the fastest lap, and that's what's so frustrating. So I'm offline here, I should be closer there, and I should be going a lot faster to put the tires on that mark there. You want to brake on the inside of this corner going into 4, and then come out to that apex, drive out right. See that little correction there? That's what I mean. Then over that bump, really gives you a nice satisfactory bump in the car when you go over it at full speed. Slowest part of the track. Watch me try to suss out what the stability control is going to do as I power out of this. This corner was painful because you have so much power, you have to turn around so much, and so I had a big correction that I didn't need because the stability control was doing it. That's me chickening it out there, if you want to hear it again. But yeah, the car didn't need that big of a correction because the stability control was there, and that's what I found out when I did that. That's why I have to fix the steering angle. Then I lift way too early here. But still do decent on the line. I could have gone probably another 3 or 4 mile an hour faster there. And then I don't get this exactly right. I wasn't as good as my first time. And then the second time's around even worse, and you'll see why. But see that correction? I'm trying to feel out how much stability control is going to work for me there. An interesting thing in that slower corner, I've really noticed this. The hybrid system actually applies braking force to the crank to slow the engine down, and then releases it to sort of releases like a spring all that built up energy, and it makes the engine feel like it's leaping free of the car, leaping free of the grip. And it's an interesting sensation. We'll see it the next time I go around. Still way offline here. This is my second lap, was not faster, but the grip and the tires had gone away at this, or had diminished at this point. Not gone away, but diminished to a point where I was driving harder than I should have, considering the tire grip. Power application, you can see how it kicks. That's the crank releasing, and just sort of like it makes the car very exciting. I'm faster through here, I believe, on this turn, but here's where I screw up big time. Oops. Tried to challenge the brakes and lost that challenge. And then powering out, and that lap's done at that point. So that was pretty frustrating, but that's how it goes. And now we go on the cool down. There's so much to talk about when the car's actually going around the track that it's hard to find time to do it between the excitement. But what's crazy is just sitting down and watching this video now. I can feel it. I can feel the steering wheel in my hands, so I can still feel the seat behind me. I can feel the sensation of this car moving around. What does that feel like? Well, the car's large and it is heavier, 3,500 pounds, but it has this great sense of motion. It has a low center of gravity. The mass seems to be centered right behind you, and you can feel it move. When it starts to get slip, you can feel that go around you, and it's super easy to tell what the car is doing, and that's I think I attribute it to why it's so easy to drive. The steering wheel is terrific, the square steering wheel. You always know which side's up on it, and where your hands are placed, if you're driving fast, right where that horn button is right there. You don't need to shuffle around because the steering ratio is so quick, but the wheel itself feels good in your hands. And the sound, I mean, come on, the experience of the sound of this thing is just amazing. To hear this thing rev that to 9,000 RPM is fan-freaking-tastic, and every time I could go on the straight and do that, it was just spectacular. And now we're on cool down, slowing the car down, going back into the pits, and at this point I was wishing for a lot more time. a lot more time. God. And then nice and slow into the pits. yeah, just watching this again makes me want to. It's weird knowing how well this car drives, and then not being able to drive it again is is somewhat frustrating. Here's a graph of the difference between Raffaele and myself. There was a V-Box running in the car when Raffaele drove it, and so we're going to take a look at the differences between Ferrari's chief test driver and me. And I'm blue. What we have on the bottom is time. What we have on the top is speed. I'm blue. Raffaele's red. Yeah, for Ferrari. And as you can see, like, we're pretty much on top of each other for a lot of the track, which is like, permit me to brag, but damn. This is from that first section with the errors, and you can see them. You can see the differences are huge there and there. And as someone who looks at data a lot, I look at that gap and I go, oh, come on, come on, could have done better here. So that's me lifting and then shifting up to fourth before Raffaele. Raffaele was, what, 10 mile an hour faster through here. What's interesting is I had a little bit more speed into 3 than he did, but he's approaching it. I mean, his approach clearly worked better. And then that complex corner where I was still offline, you can see the difference there. But over the bridge and stuff, it gets right back on target, and I actually braked a little bit better than Raffaele here. And then as we go up to the fast part of the track, you can see that I lift before Raffaele does, and that's maybe looks like more like 7 to 10 miles an hour there. And then really wuss out on entry. There's a lot of time to be gained in there, and that's primarily where the big differences are in our 2 lap times. And you can see the for some reason the LaFerrari that when I was in, it had this big slowdown at maybe 70 miles an hour or so. Not big, but an appreciable decrease in speed, decrease in acceleration. I think it's more accurate. On my driving, maybe it was getting hot. I don't know. But yeah, that also contributed to it as well. The takeaways from this is not my capabilities. The takeaway from this is that the LaFerrari is genuinely easy to drive. A lot of people talk about big power and big figures and big horsepower and big numbers. Everybody wants to see the numbers climb up. It's like everybody's got addicted to the jackpot thing of watching numbers climb and getting really excited about seeing numbers climb and all that stuff. But really, to be able to drive the car to the best of your abilities and feel satisfied in that process is more important than numbers are any day of the week. And that's where the LaFerrari really shines. It puts the numbers down. It does that, and that stuff is all well documented. But it's that ability to allow you to push yourself and push the car without feeling scared of it. I was not scared of this car at all, and I am scared of cars, and I'll easily admit that I am scared of cars. Like the ZR1 scared me, the Viper scares me, but this car doesn't, and that's a really admirable feature, and especially be able to drive this as fast as it can go. To consider all the speed it can develop, and consider the cost at stake when you're driving it fast. It's a $1 million car, literally over $1 million car. Who knows how much this development car is valued at? Everybody's watching, but still to be able to have the confidence, to have the car give you the confidence to drive it hard is why I think this is the best car I've ever driven. And that's something I went back and forth a lot about and wanted to think a lot about before saying that, because it's a statement I don't want to make lightly. But just in terms of that driver feedback and the car enabling you to do things that other cars don't, in considering all the power and all the stuff this car can do, it's absolutely incredible. Yeah. Well, anyway, that's another dump about the LaFerrari, a car that I greatly admire, greatly respect. All this stuff with Ferrari aside, this is still an amazing machine, and to those owners out there, I'm envious, and I really hope that you go out and drive your cars because they are fantastic. That's it. If you got any questions, please let me know, and I'll see you next time.